Welcome to If I Did It, a show where we analyze and solve PR kerfuffles from the MMA world and beyond. I'm your host, Alexi Old, and joining us as always, I almost said old ways, is Kid Nate Bloody Elbow and Eugene S. Robinson of Aussie.com and author of Fight Everything You Ever Want to Know About Ass Kicking, but we're afraid you'd get your ass kicked for asking. Gentlemen!
Sir!
Hola.
And Eugene, you...
¿Cómo está usted, amigo?
Bien, gracias.
Yeah,
¿Y tú?
good.
You're the UFC. Eugene. Nate Diaz told ESPN's Brett Okamoto that he feels conflicted about fighting Robbie Lawler and GSP. Quote, "Those are Nick Diaz fights. I'm not trying to step on his shoes. We'll see how things play out," end quote. With Nate still basking in the glow received from conquering Conor McGregor and his brother Nick's eligibility to return from his suspension in August, how do you, as the UFC, make them play out?
Think you guys there?
Yeah, we're here. Keep
Yes.
talking.
Of course, Safari fucking closes right as I open my mouth. That's perfect. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Good.
Yes, okay. One thing I noticed about the Diaz's is that the expression "out of the mouths of babes" always comes to mind. I mean, have you ever heard anything more right? In actual fact, I mean, he's saying it's like there's no fucking filters with those guys because it's clear who is Nick gonna fight? Who is Nick gonna fight? Nick is back. Who is Nick gonna fight? No. If Nick is gonna fight anybody, it would be those guys. I like the Three Billy Goats gruff way of doing things. I mean, it's like I once hid in the bushes and jumped out and tried to strangle a romantic rival. And as I sat on his chest with my hands around his throat, I explained to him, I said, in life, you have your things and I have my things. And if your things stay your things and my things stay my things and the paths don't cross, we don't have any conflict. But the second there's an attempt to secure my things as your things, I'm going to have to kill you. I said, do you understand what I mean? And he was like,
How
yes.
does the young lady feel about the
I was 13 years old.
Oh, okay.
I saw it then, and Nate Diaz sees it now. It doesn't make. I can't think of why. I mean, the UFC might be contrarians and go, well, I don't want him dictating my terms, but that makes a lot of sense. I can't see it any other way. Can you? I mean, maybe they split the difference, but I really can't see it any other way. One fights Lawler, one fights GSP, but I don't really see it any other way.
Well,
how about this? How about Nate fights GSP because Nick already did so, and Nick fights Lawler? How's that?
well, that would be Solomaic, but the UFC prefers to chop the baby in half, as we know.
Yeah.
I think it's all about control for the UFC, and they don't want these guys getting uppity and telling them what's what. They're going to try to push. They didn't want Nate in this capacity anyway. Nate was the last-minute substitute that they thought would lose. And here they are suddenly.
Yeah, but a dollar makes a difference, man.
A dollar does make a difference, but they've never really loved being in the Diaz business. They do it. They do a lot of things they don't necessarily love, but their heart's not in it. It's not like it's their boy Matt Hughes or Rich Franklin or Chuck Liddell, one of these guys that they're in love with.
So you think they're sobbing as they drive all those trucks to Wells Fargo?
No, I think they're just very on guard to resist any attempts by the Diaz brothers to get out of line. I think that they expect these guys to be getting off the reservation at any moment, and so I don't think they have perceived loyalty with the Diaz brothers. I think that they're worried about the Diaz brothers jumping over to fight for Scott Coker, and I think that they're going to make this as difficult for Nick and Nate as possible. They're going to try to push Nate to fight the fights they want him to fight. Nick's not your problem. We'll deal with Nick. You worry about Nate. We're negotiating.
It's really counterintuitive, right?
It's enormously counterintuitive. It took me years to accept that this was actually happening, but it's what they do.
Yeah.
And it's what they're going to do. They're going to push back. They're not going to let Nate dictate. They're not going to let Nick dictate. They're going to try to force Nate to fight the fights they want him to fight. Now, they might have to compromise with that, but they're not going to make it easy. They're going to make it hard and make it painful for the Diaz brothers so that they don't just get walked all over.
Well, what's interesting about this, it's very typical of a lot of toxic, even though they're not employees or independent contractors. I think we've all seen situations where egos in a corporation get in the way of getting the job done and what's best for the company.
Yep.
And we see this. I think one analogy in terms of the fake fight game as opposed to the fight game, just to let you know how ridiculous this stuff can get.
Mm-hmm.
When Vince McMahon acquired WCW,
Right.
he was still in the mindset that he had to protect the WWF at that time brand as the strongest brand possible. So instead of saying, okay, you know what, I now have contracts for guys that were perceived killers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up super fights between the killers, their killers and my killers, but guess what? They're all my killers. I win. He still was thinking, no, this is my product versus what they represent, and I have to remind the world why my product is still the best product. And people are like, oh my God, he was changing gimmicks, he was doing all these things, tinkering, showing that, okay, you know what, now it's my toy. I'm going to show you how much better I am with creating something. So you see a situation where that was such a fascinating situation in a fake fight game. And so when you see in the real fight game something similar occurring where you have the Diaz brothers, you have these assets, you can maximize them, work with them, they're making you money, as opposed to like getting your ego in the way.
You know, latter-day Dead Kennedys, which I was not a big fan of, early-day Dead Kennedys I thought were actually revelatory. Latter-day were terrible, but they had this song, a line from a song that comes up all the time, and Biafra sings, "How reckless can you get?" Oh, I'm sorry. It was on the Fear Power God spoken word compilation where he repeats. It wasn't Dead Kennedys at all, but it was Biafra. And he said, "How reckless can you get? How reckless can you get?" Now, as a lawyer, Alexa, you might remember the implosion of Brobeck, Flager, and Harrison back in the 90s.
Yes.
That was that situation. What came down to the big rainmaker, the guy who went and started Venture Law Group, saying, I want a slightly bigger piece of the pie. And they said, you don't dictate the terms. Right. We dictate the terms. The guy said, all right, I'm not a slave. I'm picking up my cards and leaving. And almost 100-year law firm down the fucking toilet. You know, you're right. I'm afraid in this instance, Kid Nate is right. That they just did a study and they said that in leadership groups, if you have a bunch of A-level personalities like alpha dudes, those guys produce less and are less creative than the mixed modality groups. And there's a guy I wrote about today on Ozzy, Dave Owens, a professor at Vanderbilt, who said very much the same thing. He's like, you know, companies kill creativity all the time, and they are incapable of stopping themselves from doing it because of these fucking alpha personalities, and that's what we're talking about. So yeah, I changed my mind. Nate's right.
Well, has this never happened before?
I keep expecting that somebody is going to rise above it and embrace their cynical opportunist side and say, you know what, this is good business, whatever. You know, post Conor McGregor, I'm expecting that they would go, okay, I'll let the leash out just a little bit because it's still my fucking leash, but I guess maybe not.
The UFC is real prone to this, like when they bought Pride, when they bought Strikeforce, even when they absorbed the WEC, even though the WEC guys have been on their side for a long time, they put obstacles in the path of those guys, and there was still very much a feeling of our guys and their guys, even as the Strikeforce and WEC guys cleaned house. And the UFC even does this with total UFC guys when there's like you'll notice Brazilian fighters sometimes have to go up a steeper hill, or African American fighters. It seems like there's a certain brand of fighter that they identify the most with, and they just can't seem to help themselves from tilting the field in their favor. And the Diaz brothers have multiple strikes against them in that category. Basically, you can't have. If you have a Who, where you've got a superstar drummer and a superstar bass player, that means the singer and the guitar player have to step back a little bit. And they'd rather be in the Rolling Stones, where the rhythm section minds their business and keeps their mouth shut and stands in the background.
Charlie Watts is coming to your hotel room punching you in the face for describing him as my drummer.
Charlie had the one moment in the 40 years. Otherwise, he put up with mountains of bullshit from Mick and Keith. Mountains of it.
Yeah. Yeah, mountains of bullshit, huh? That's funny. So, I think that accurately describes the amount of cash that he's got at his house. You know?
Indeed.
So if you're at the UFC, I guess given the fact that neither one of you are, you know, the ones with the obstacles, you know, you would try to let cooler heads prevail or bring somebody in to handle this kind of matchmaking, but in all honesty, you just can't.
Hey, man,
neither one of you can see this happening.
It's like if you were asking me.
If Joe Silva's trying to rip my fucking shirt off as I sit there cage side because it's got a URL on it. You think
Donna
these guys,
Shalala.
yeah, well, I didn't finish the story. I'm using it as an illustrative point. You think these
All
guys
right.
are looking at the forest? No, man, they're looking at branch after branch after branch. They're not looking at the forest. So
Yeah, it's like the scorpion and the frog. If you can tell the scorpion not to sting the frog on the way across the river, but he's still the scorpion. He's going to sting the frog. So you got to give advice that fits what the client is, and this client is the scorpion.
Well,
man, we went from one downbeat show to the other. UFC, actually, Knuckle Up was upbeat this week, but everything else. I mean, I wish the scorpion could go. You know what? Maybe this time I don't want to drown in the river. Maybe this time I don't.
You must not love scorpions then, if you don't want them to celebrate the true nature. I mean, you know, it is what it is.
Well, speaking of true nature and drowning, but in this situation, drowning in blood. Nate, you're Paige Van Zant.
I love it.
It's a natural fit for me.
You endeared yourself to hardcore MMA fans with a bloody, gutty performance against Rose Namajunas. Now you have a chance to endear yourself to a wider audience as a member of Dancing with the Stars. What preparations are you making to maximize this marketing opportunity?
Man, that is a tough question. It's a little bit outside my bailiwick. I would say do not watch the Tom DeLay series of Dancing with the Stars because he did not maximize his brand value there. I think she just needs to focus on dancing well, being presentable, having a good look. I don't know what to, I mean.
Taking acting classes?
Yeah, I don't know about taking acting classes, but I would focus on your presentation because you're going to be on camera a lot and on mic and a lot of improvised moments. I would just try.
I thought you were going to go a completely different way with that.
Well, you tell us. You lead on, McDuff.
Well, where she said recently, or was it yesterday, when she said that she wishes that she had gotten choked out like Holly Holm
instead of tapping.
Yeah, instead of tapping, I was
Don't tap on Dancing with the Stars, Paige.
Hey, man, you know what? I keep thinking of DMX in this instance. You're laying on your back in the church and it hurts. You're laying on your back on the canvas and it fucking hurts. How's that taste, man? Holly stands taller in defeat for going out like a champ, and now you got people mocking Conor McGee. It's like, how come he didn't do what Holly did?
Right. She fucked it up for everybody.
He fucked out too soon. What's the matter with that Irish pussy? Oh man, give the guy a fucking break. Your brain automatically just starts to go, I don't like this. But and to her publicly, that told me a few things. It told me, one, her mic is not off, which is a good place to be. Because if you're Gustafson, just floating above the universe, you get the sense that maybe your mic is off, man, because you're calling Houston and nobody's or Vegas and nobody's responding.
And that, my friends, is the Major Tom definition quintessentially presented.
Correct. So she's at least her mic is still on. But Dancing on the Stars, come on, man. Come on.
Dancing with the Stars. One more thing about the choke-out, tap-out thing. I think that was a combination of, A, Holmes' inexperience as a grappler. A more experienced grappler would have tapped out sooner. If you watch Holmes when she's getting choked, she starts swinging at air. And
I like it.
It was uncanny and unpleasant to me because I knew at that point she was unconscious or quickly becoming unconscious and having these sort of spasmodic reflex.
John Matua, baby.
It wasn't quite that where he was stiff. I mean, she was.
Oh, yeah, that's great. That's right. I forgot that. But here's the thing also. Another thing with what she did, I thought was great for going to Holly Holm. Posting on Twitter, her on the mat, doing her mat work training.
Yep.
I love that because it's like, hey, guys,
Jack in the Box. It's not fat shaming, man. I'm just saying she's eating that Jack in the Box.
Who?
Honda.
Yeah.
Exactly. Rhonda was standing there on the corner after she went to Jack in the Box, and the cop came along and said, break it up. I'm not saying she's fat, but,
Just saying.
But at least the cops are giving attention to her.
Around the house, baby. All right. Here all week.
Well, at least the cops are paying attention to her, right? The whole adage of, can't even get arrested.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. But back to the Holmes-McGregor thing. So there was the combination of Holmes' inexperience and then the animus towards McGregor, where people are just looking for an excuse to shit talk on this guy.
Yeah, I think that guy. I'm not faulting that. I mean, I'm a McGregor booster, but come on, man. Kenny Rogers said it best. You know,
You gotta
know when to hold it, know when to fucking fold it. You know. All right.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, yeah. All right.
But you don't think though that since you have the closest Hollywood connection to us, literally, Eugene, in terms of her trying to spin a character or herself or trying to get that whole Hollywood attention. I mean, Dance with the Stars doesn't have the rating it used to. But so what kind of, I was kind of suggesting on that tack, like what can she do to maximize opportunity? Not necessarily for the fight game.
What the fuck? Don't you, there's no Schwab's drugstore moment anymore. Fucking Hollywood is full of people with dreams, the dreams that will rust and grow old before they get a spot as an extra on a TV show from the fucking, on Spike,
That's why I love it.
Yeah, exactly. You want to, that first 5 minutes of Welcome to the Jungle. It's still that.
I don't know. Paige's agent called me and said she was real excited. She's been hearing from Bill Cosby, Woody Allen, all these talent directors want to work with her, and she's really thrilled.
Roman Polanski.
Roman Polanski's calling. She'll have to go out to Switzerland for that one, but she's willing.
Hey, when I was in New York modeling and acting in high school, and I used to deliver fast food over to Interview magazine. Andy Warhol's magazine, and one of the guys there who remained nameless, he was like, "Say," I was like, "Yes." He goes, "Are you a model?" I'm 16. I said, "Well, I do modeling." And the guy goes, "Well, we could," and I'm like, "Yeah, man, whatever, you got you." So we start talking, and the guy says, "Hey, Andy wants to invite you to a party." I go, "Cool. I'd be glad to fucking party down with Andy Warhol." He goes, "Yeah, but we're gonna have bodybuilders at the party." I go, "Yeah, I'm a bodybuilder. I'm down with it. You just stand around and it could be kind of campy." He goes, "Well, actually, it's not really gonna be bodybuilders." I go, "Well, you just said bodybuilders." I go, "I'm actually more bodybuilder. Just you, me." Let me get this straight. So. How many other people are at this party? Well, actually, just me and Andy and a few other people, and you. I go, nah.
You and your pecs and your.
Now you and your posing chucks, it'll be wonderful. I go, nah.
That reminds me of Dave Chappelle's comments about R. Kelly peeing on the 15-year-old. He was like, "I remember being 15, getting peed on by R. Kelly was the least of my worries." I was trying to finger people and.
Try that, man.
Jeez, so speaking of peeing, Eugene, your Kellogg's.
Oh!
A 2-year-old video surfaced on World Star Hip Hop last Friday, showing one of your workers urinating in a production line where Rice Krispie treats were made. You responded with a statement that any affected products would have been, quote, very limited and past their expiration dates, end quote. Is this enough? Is this enough PR to prevent a new Gnome edition to Snap, Crackle, and Pop?
Well, no. In actual fact, they got to make an arrest. I don't care who they arrest, but to make me feel better, they got to arrest the guy. Because I don't care about this guy continuing to urinate in the cereal. I care about other people deciding, hey, it'll be a funny idea to urinate in the cereal. And I'm not even going to bust loose with the fact that urine is a sterile solution, that plenty of people say it has health benefits. I don't want to eat urine for breakfast, I think I can make that my signer now. Don't want to eat urine for breakfast. And it's a bad look. I don't give a fuck what you say, man. What kind of fucking production line do you have that a guy feels okay not only urinating in the Rice Krispie treats, but filming himself urinating on the and then loading it up to YouTube? I mean, come on, man. Stop it. It should be like THX 1138. The fucking the
George Lucas movie, right?
The George Lucas movie. I want it like to be a clean room fabrication facility. That's what I want from my cereal. But cereal has been taking a suck, and I don't know if you've been paying attention the last few years anyway. If you've got stock in Kellogg, you'd have been better. You should have moved it out years ago because people are not eating as much cereal. So
no, they're going away to McDonald's.
Last thing they fucking needed.
Yeah. What about you, Nate?
Well. This is not what I would recommend, but the unethical thing to do would be to misdirect it and sort of pay some shyster to start a social media campaign about pissing in Post Toasties and just misdirect it all. Because people like that pissing in your Post Toasties thing, like, just let that Do they? I don't even know if they make Post OC still, but let Post deal with it. Let's confuse the market. I can't remember which cereal company it was that was getting pissed on it. Maybe it was Post, something like that.
That's some fucking high level, tri-level chess thinking. I like that.
Yeah, but you can't get caught doing that. That would be extremely bad. So as a legitimate PR consultant, I would never advise a client to do that.
Right.
Well, especially given the fact that there's an insult, right? Like, who peed in your cornflakes this morning, right? Like, I don't know if you guys have heard that.
That's right. Well, also, listen, I don't eat Rice Krispie treats, so I feel pretty fucking safe. And I'm only eating organic cereal if I'm eating cereal at all. But, I mean...
Is that a challenge? Some guy at a plant, organic cereal plant, is like, that sounds like a challenge.
Exactly. I'm going to find the cereal he likes and piss in it. I mean, look. I mean, the reality of it is, there's a lot of. So I was trying to tell somebody, some anti-tax guy. He's a Republican who he's ranting. Taxes. I go, it's bullshit, man. He goes, you're goddamn right, it's bullshit. I go, no. It's make-believe. First of all, money is an abstraction. If I'm stuck in the woods, I can't use it for anything except for maybe 5 seconds of warmth. It has no value except the value we imbue it with. So when somebody says taxes, it's imaginary money. What your boss is doing is saying, I would give you $100,000 a year, but I'm going to give you 90, and I'm going to give this other make-believe tranche of money to the government in your name. And people are like, I want my money. It's not your money. It's not anything. It's just it's fictional, magical numbers in the air. And this is very much the same way that we trust that somehow it's a THX 1138 universe, and our hamburgers are coming across in this clean room environment where people's hair not shedding, they're not sneezing, they're not coughing, There's an AIDS researcher in San Francisco who stopped eating in restaurants because nobody's proven to me that airborne AIDS is not possible. They dismissed her as a crank. She goes, you ever work in the kitchen? See these guys cut their fingers all the time? I'm not eating in a restaurant. Sorry. Until they figure this shit out, I'm not doing it. Her name was Elizabeth something or other. People go, oh, she's crazy. I mean, these are all acts of faith, man. Articles and acts of faith that, the cereal's going to be. Man, you know how much piss you have consumed already? That's my point.
And rat poop and everything else.
And the whole bit, man. That's why you have an immune system. So.
Yeah, my wife used to terminate bad parents' parental rights, and maybe some innocent people. I don't know the details of every case, but there was some dad who cut his finger off in the salad chopper at work, and they were like, "And what happened to the salad? Oh, it went out."
Oh,
it's like Jesus Christ!
And even if you say fuck
cut the whole bowl of salad.
I'm going to fix all my food at home. Oh, where does that food come from?
Exactly.
Well, it comes from the pristine fields of Central Valley, California. Really? Where are those guys picking that shit going to piss? Yeah. Welcome to your rutabaga, baby. Come on.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well,
plus some people consider piss a good Friday night,
Well, some people considered Breitbart News a good read as well. But Eugene, you're them. And your failure to support one of your reporters who accused Donald Trump's campaign manager of roughing her up at a Trump event in Jupiter, Florida, has resulted in numerous resignations. Yeah. Your resigning national security correspondent went so far as to claim that you are, quote, no longer a journalistic enterprise, end quote, but, quote, something resembling an unaffiliated media super PAC for the Trump campaign, end quote. Another resigning editor added, quote, the News is becoming less of a news site and more of a propaganda organization dedicated to the Trump campaign, end quote. BuzzFeed reports that multiple others shall follow their lead and leave in shame over your weak leadership. What internal and external PR moves must you make to stop your brand's hemorrhaging?
Well, you need to stand up right now and hold a press conference and say, the sun is hot, water wet, snow is cold. Thank you very much. I mean, seriously, you got to be fucking kidding me. You got to be. How reckless can you get? I mean, what are we talking about, man? Drudge, Breitbart. What? Who? Well, these are not journals of note. I mean, I find it more. In other words, like when I was on the Jenny Jones show, I'm going to have to come out with a line from Taxi Driver. There's no reality to any of this. What I'm waiting for right now, very specifically, I'm waiting for the first establishment guy to break for fucking Trump. Because if you're smart, mafia style, you're sitting at home going, you know what? Yeah, this is like maybe post-Hitler, the assassination attempt of Hitler. The fucking attempt failed. You got to be wrapping yourself around his knees, kissing his fucking feet because you don't want to meet the piano wire. That's, what's happening. There's no real media. This is not fucking real media. I'm not even going to entertain that idea that there is. What I'm looking for now is for guys to do what they're supposed to do, which is line up. And Trump came out and said, in essence, mafia speak today. He goes, on the outside chance you're thinking about a broker convention, there's probably going to be violence. And NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, there's probably going to be violence. Be violent. Be violent. So you want to talk about something of interest with this election? These fake media organizations, I'm not going to buy it. But I'm more interested in when are they going to wise up and play ball? Let me wet my beak. Get in line. And my prediction right now is that I'm going to go bold and say that Mitch McConnell is the first one to line up because he's been super fucking quiet. And he can't fight this SCOTUS thing and this Trump thing. Two front battles he can't fight.
Did you see who the SCOTUS nominee is going to be?
Yes.
It's great. It's perfect.
It's
white dude.
It's perfect unless you're the Clinton campaign, in which case your whole argument of you got to vote for us so we can nominate the same people to the Supreme Court the Republicans would. I mean, it's just like it sucks the air out of the sails completely for the campaign. But back to the Breitbart thing.
You mean I'm sorry?
Not Breitbart. The thing about Breitbart that's revealing is that this is tearing the cover off the gears and letting you see how the sausage gets made here. Breitbart is bullshit and a right-wing site, except to a lot of people, that's the only media they trust. Same with Drudge. Like Breitbart has enough credibility, enough exposure with certain sets of the people who've been convinced that the mainstream media is full of lies, and yet they're more than willing to spoon up a whole nother set of lies served out by people who are barely even pretending to try to tell the truth. And in this case, they're just flagrantly like dropping their reporters in the grease. I mean, it's easy enough to do, and I'm sure there's plenty of young up-and-comers who'd like to be working for Breitbart, even knowing that if you get slapped around at a Donald Trump rally, they're not going to have your back. I mean, that's a tough job to take. And so that's going to have some impact, and people at Breitbart and organizations like this, they've seen how Fox did with Megyn Kelly, where you'd think Megyn Kelly, big deal, big star, Fox News, and they've shown that she's fungible entirely. That Trump is the one driving the ratings, and it doesn't really matter who the talking heads are that are talking back to him. So, this is sort of a wake-up moment for the people at Breitbart, but it also doesn't matter at all. Breitbart's going to keep on rolling. They're going to keep on backing Trump. They're going to throw away anything. Also, the misogyny of this is interesting.
And Trump, race too. She was Honduran.
Yeah, and Trump really does not like women, and he doesn't like Latinas. And
you just because he calls them pigs and bimbos and
slaps him around and makes jokes about sleep with his daughter. Except, did you see what he did today, where he was talking about how
has been accused of raping them and
Yeah, but did you see what he said about Tiananmen Square today? The Chinese nearly blew it when they looked so weak, but they finally got it together and cracked down on those Tiananmen Square protesters. It's like
he said that the other day, actually.
Yeah, and it's like, oh my God, this guy's blatantly coming out and saying, I will impose authoritarian rule, and people are signing up to vote for him. It's staggering.
I still have a fantasy that he's going to get the nomination saying, I was just fucking with y'all.
You're going for the okie doke, man. I'm not at this point. What I find most amusing is how the machinery is trying to derail this fucking guy, and it's like I mean, there's badly stage matching as badly as anybody's ever stage matched. Protesters, and immediately I see CNN protest at a Trump rally, and the crawl below is Marco Rubio says this is terrible. We don't want our government, and then Sanders, and it's like, come on, man. Look. Let me explain to you. True believers, opportunists.
Right.
I'm not a Republican. I'm not going to vote Republican. But when I look over on that side of the aisle, I can't stomach a Rubio. He's gone. I don't have to. I can't stomach a Cruz. That the muttering, stumbling, bumbling Kasich, I can't stomach him either. I can't, which means what? By process of elimination, I'm looking at Trump and going, I'm not a Republican, but I can see that makes sense because that's the raw, naked face of that fucking party, and I want them to realize it. I want it globally realized. Because passionate conservatism, my ass. And you know what I want him to choose as a running mate? Everybody's thinking, oh, it'll be Ben Carson. Nah. Once I say it, like HW said about Dan Quayle, it's the most genius thing ever. Okay, you ready for this?
Yes.
Rudy Giuliani.
Oh.
You get these two loudmouth New Yorkers up there. Yeah, I mean, that would be theater to end all theater.
I think Christie. He's going to go with Christie. He's not going to screw his boy Christie.
Yeah, I think he's going to go with Christie too. But
when it's basically the same value proposition.
Pretty much. Two loudmouth East Coast guys. Yeah.
You should put that on a T-shirt, Eugene. Really, I think you're missing a great opportunity to make some dough. You have a Trump, have a Trump image on there, and compassionate conservatism, my ass.
Yeah. I got your compassion.
And you get a lot of Trump supporters that will buy that. I was like, yeah, Eugene, you do it.
Right.
Well, have you guys been following the Republican pundits turning against the Republican voters for supporting Trump?
Yeah. And there'll be a riot, like he said.
They're taking the gloves off, though, on the stuff they're saying about the Trump voters. Like National Review had a piece where the guy was like, I'm a West Texan, and I know for a fact that the West Texans are welfare-sucking, drug-taking, scumbag-addled idiots, and they deserve to die. He literally said that. And, I mean, I'm a West Texan, too, and I'm with him all up until the deserve to die part. I mean, the whole rural part of America is morally bankrupt, just like the rest of the country, drug-addled, porn-addled, broke as fuck, looking for government handouts, got nothing else. But, this split between the proletariat of the Republican Party and these agitprop assholes is now out in the open, and this is a huge service. This was an ugly alliance that goes back to 1968 and George Wallace and Richard Nixon, and it's nice to see the white working class breaking free from the Republican Party. The problem is where they're going to go, and Trump is a very scary alternative. Now, if African Americans were to figure out, hey, we're getting screwed by the Democrats just like the poor white people have been getting screwed by the Republicans, and allied with the white working people, you would have a real situation.
Last guy who suggested that got shot.
Exactly. That's how that plays out.
When you're talking about that whole putting people in line, I think it's so amazing how even there was some study that came out this weekend, like, oh, we've broken down finally what the average Trump supporter is, and it literally was a guilt piece to show people, hey, look, they're not educated. They're fucking idiots. They don't make any money. So that's not, So are you sure that you want to align your interest? I mean, two things you see. One is are you sure you want to align your interest with those people, number one? And number two, it's like, hey, guess what? No, Republicans, we're cool. It's just these fucking idiots that we have to contend with. And it's really bizarre. I saw a guilt tripping thing of oh, yeah, that's not our party. That's not our party. That's just some weirdos.
No, so the last guy who just left there is a lifelong Republican, former Navy guy. And he said he's a pretty even-tempered guy, got super angry the other day, and he said, and I'm sick of the fucking media telling me I'm stupid for supporting Trump. Right. This guy was working as an engineer for the last 10 fucking years. He's like, he's not buying it, man. And he goes, by the time we get to California, it doesn't make a difference. So anyway, but he's like, he goes, if they fucking gerrymander, if they do anything, I will never, ever vote Republican again. I will actively vote against Republican interests purposefully to punish them for this. It's like these are not all yahoos, man.
No, that's true. That's what's messed up is the fact that, again, you have a situation where you lure people in, you feed certain fuels of, with back in the '68, like you said, Nate, and also with the Tea Party, we can't trust this dude with money and he's going to spend it all and whatever. And then you have a dynamic where the chickens are coming home to roost and people are, oh my God, what's happened? Exactly what you've been catering to. Yep. And I have to say, the alternatives that you're presenting are not reasonable alternatives. It's not like he's on the stage with somebody. It's like, you know what, that guy makes sense. He's electable. I get him or her. No, you listen to these guys okay, wait a second. Okay, Trump, Cruz.
Yeah, he's crazy.
Cruz and Rubio and Casey. These are the choices.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's the I really think that's one of the fundamental. The candidate class is so fucking weak
Yep.
that people that aren't just the like inbred like ignorant assholes in the middle of nowhere. Like who else are gonna who else are people that conservatively align with your party you're gonna vote for? You're not gonna vote for Hillary.
It's making me laugh every time a Paul Ryan stands up and says, "We are not the party of divisiveness." I go, "What? What? Since when? Since when? I'm sorry, man. We are not the.
Look, we're the party of white men, and if you women and black people would just shut up and do what we tell you, there wouldn't be any divide at all.
We don't even have to go to that made-up quote. We could just go back to Trent Lott's quote.
Which one? There's the
one that was his exit line about how we would all been better off
if the South would have won the war. Yes, indeed.
And that also brings us to our curveball. Eugene, you're Will Quigg, Grand Dragon of the KKK's California branch. Yesterday you endorsed Hillary Clinton because of her supposed secret KKK-friendly agenda. You said, quote, "I cannot reveal my sources. It's my opinion, if you know what I mean, wink, wink. I don't want her to come back and say I'm slandering her," end quote. What is your secret agenda for the endorsement?
Oh man, this is like I feel like the Joe Pesci character from the JFK movie with the floating headpiece. Man, it's a mystery. It's a mystery wrapped inside of an enigma. You can't keep the players straight without a scorecard. I mean, key bono. Who benefits from that? They say, okay, Hillary's strong in the South because black voters still remember Bill, so they're gonna vote strong. So they capitalize on this fucking wedge with her talking about the super predator, the woman who showed up at her speech with the sign about super predator should be brought to heel, her sister soldier moment, and the security hustles her out and she gives her brittle response. We're talking about issues here. So, well, this is an issue, right? And then she has to crawl it back for fucking 2 days later, and then she bobbles, unforced error, absolutely mind-blowing, the Nancy Reagan funeral thing with the AIDS thing. I mean, Jesus Christ, how stupid can you fucking be? Yeah. You show up, you say she's a wonderful woman, we'll all mourn her passing, and you leave. And she goes and she says, they've done so much for AIDS. What? I mean, that was it was so bad, it made me think that who ran her out there with that? Her team?
Well, that came out of her head. That came out of her head, and that is a tell because she was around back in the day, and it tells you she did not have any friends in the anti-AIDS community that were active and organizing and protesting and getting people help and medical care and dignity because people were dying and the Reagans were mocking them.
No, they're not even mocking.
Hudson
their administration who busted out and said this was God's holy revenge.
Yes, they were. I mean, they were actively bad.
And we're not talking about something that's hidden also. I mean, it was very public that, especially in recent years, that Rock Hudson, who was a friend of Nancy Reagan, when he was in Europe, he went to Europe to get treatment he could not get in the U.S., and he needed to have some kind of letter or statement authorizing the procedure. And he wrote Nancy, he's like, hey, we're friends, I need this treatment. And she's like, fuck you.
She didn't respond. Yeah,
So just something like that. We're not talking about, it's this hidden disease nobody knows about. We're talking about a very public, anyone that was alive during that period knows what the line was.
So the KKK guy comes out and support. It's like somebody should have held their fire a little bit because she's her fucking worst enemy, or whoever's advising her, whoever's standing behind her, or the machinery, or maybe they're just trying to, create cover for her down the road so you can't say, I mean, I don't know what the fuck is going on in that campaign. So that the KKK, I think maybe that's the kind of thing that they should have waited for. Maybe he should have endorsed her come August. Maybe that would have had enough time to trickle. But as now, it's point. I mean, whoever ran him out there. But the KKK is making interesting moves in South by Southwest right now. They got that black cat who now is like the KKK whisperer, who is like befriending all these KKK guys and getting them to give him their robes, and then they repudiate their history and Kamal Bell did this interview, went to a KKK rally, and he said came out of it feeling like their common cause. And a significant black minister came out today, or a Chicago minister came out today in support of Trump. So racially, interesting shifts are happening. So the fact that the KKK came out and said, oh, we're going to support Hillary's agenda for what? Yeah, well, I would say that's more about what they did in Israel than anything else, in actual fact, because when you give $80 million to fucking Hamas, you got to know what they're going to do with it. I don't give a fuck, you commenters. I don't give a shit. I'm not going to argue the Middle East thing, but I'm just saying the Oslo Accords, you're not going to be claimed to be a friend of Israel and have signed those deals. That's reality. So,
what do you think?
I think that's crazy, for the record. But because you can see where friends of Israel like Bibi are leading them down the path that they took Zimbabwe, that turned Rhodesia into Zimbabwe. I mean, never go full apartheid would be.
What do you think is? What do you think?
Well, Bibi is a problem and has been a fucking problem for a long time.
And he's the best they got. Like, look at what's coming after Bibi is more frothing at the mouth, crazy.
Well, they had Sharon, and then they had Bibi, and Zippy Livni has got no fucking feet on the ground in Israel as people who fucking. I thought, oh, she's fucking great, and I'm talking to people in Israel. I go, she's a bubblehead, and we hate her. I was like, oh my god, okay. This is never gonna be fucking solved, but the reality of it is we're knee deep in there. We got to try to make it work. And I don't know what to tell you.
I don't know. Personally, I'd like to pull out, but that's a whole different thing. But the thing he did say that was interesting and not crazy was there are some interesting racial dynamics. There are some African Americans supporting Trump. There are reasons for African Americans to support Trump. I don't support Trump.
Mike Tyson.
Yeah, Mike Tyson. But it reminds me of a couple years ago when the Klan was trying to organize in Long Island. They were trying to recruit black people against Latinos. And it's all, it's in-group, out-group, this stuff shifts. And if white racists and black racists start saying, hey, we should band together against those people, all bets are off and things get very interesting. Now, if they could somehow get Latinos in there in that alliance and have the entire working class against the upper classes, that's when the people start getting shot and the cheating, because the upper classes don't have the votes to win, so we'd have to get ugly. So just.
And for the record, this is the second time that Kid Nate has said this during his So Kid Nate, not Eugene, Kid Nate.
Didn't you love Snoop Dogg's duet with Willie Nelson?
Yeah, oh, man, I remember.
Hey, well, you know what? This reminds me of our teachable moment that we're going to have this week in terms of Eugene pointing out some repetition in Kid Nate's answer. So, Kid Nate, I'm going to put it to you. Your New Jersey Governor, Chris Christie. After establishing a reputation as a bully by standing up to unions and Democrats, you appeared to be a reasonable Republican by hugging President Obama in wake of his Hurricane Sandy aid, which arguably aided his re-election efforts in 2012. And your presidential prospects, in theory, in 2016, until your poor performance in the Republican primaries ended with a snarky kamikaze attack that crippled Marco Rubio's campaign. Your helpless endorsement of Donald Trump not only reminded people of Reek and the Gimp, it inspired 6 newspapers to call for your resignation. On Friday, the Record reported that your security detail for pursuing the presidency, I'm frothing just thinking about it, cost New Jersey taxpayers $600,000 for 190 full days you spent out of state in 2015, plus another 71 partial days. And on Monday, Matt Friedman of Politico tweeted that you missed a state trooper's funeral to stump for Trump, your 3rd missed officer funeral during this campaign season. Is going full Trump and hoping for a VP slot the only play you could make in wake of your damaged brand?
Yes, or AG. I think, hell, he'd take HUD. I think Christie is down for whatever. As you can see, when Trump ritually mounts him every time they do an appearance together, Christie is your classic fat chick who's eager to please, and it's not pretty.
Hey!
This is the fattest episode. What's going on here?
That was hateful. I take that back and apologize. Christie, however, is a fat pig and is disgusting and will do anything, and he's an awful person. Skipping funerals is the least of it. Cutting off towns from transportation.
Bridgegate, I think, was the biggest issue.
Bridgegate is what killed Christie, thankfully, because that is the definition. That's not just bad governance. That's malgovernance.
Well, no, for anybody who spent 5 minutes, who spent 5 minutes in New York City traffic is like, God, that's fucked up, man.
So would you like to introduce Bridgegate to those listeners who are abroad or weren't aware of Bridgegate?
Yeah, to punish a political opponent, he decided to stymie traffic across the fucking GW Bridge, the George Washington Bridge, man. That shit's a drag.
They deliberately sabotage traffic flow out of a city and people died and ambulances stuck on the bridge. I mean, this is misgovernance. This postulates a presidency that would literally, Vermont voted against me? Screw you, Vermont. All flights to Vermont are canceled. You know, get the flight people on the board. Traffic controller is shut down for Vermont. I mean,
spirited, petty.
Yeah, petty and just not doing your job as governor, which is to represent and take care of the people's business, all the people's business. That is a fundamental bedrock of American democracy. If you can't represent all the people, we no longer have a functioning democracy. We just have sides grabbing power and abusing each other. And if you know your Roman history, that ends ugly. Like, there was a period where the Romans would, like, one party would show up outside Rome with an army, get into town, slaughter everybody, and then get so drunk and decadent that when the other guy came back from the Middle East with his army, then it was their turn to be on the chopping block, and that is not where you want to go, man. That is not how societies function.
What about you? So what about you, Eugene? Do you agree?
Yeah. I think he's fucking toasted. You know, I mean, it was a miracle that he got. It was his manner that got him to where he was in Jersey. But Jersey people are fucking from Nutley to Hawthorne, from all over Jersey City,
from Camden to Montclair.
Yeah, like, nobody's putting up with it, man. From Princeton to Rahway, they're not fucking putting up with it. No way.
Yeah,
you know?
That's true.
He's at this point now. He's like Francis Scatino. He's looking for that lifeboat to magically transport him back to his apartment, where he can cozy up in the warmth and the light and duck going back out to the ship that he sunk. No way.
Man. Speaking about sunken ships, it's time for Eugene's Lost Battalion / Favorite Toll Booth / Major Tom.
Well, I'm not gonna even. I'm sure everybody wants to say Marco Rubio Lost Battalion, but it's self-awareness and his choked up, stone-faced family speech of last night. He knows exactly where. I don't know if I'll run for president, be president, or ever again. Yeah, you got that right, buddy. You got that right. It's a taste to eat that. So it's not him who's Lost Battalion. You know who's Lost Battalion? John Kasich. He's like out there in the mist. As we won Ohio.
I'm ready to serve.
Yes, we got some. We got some. And hey, why is Junior Dos Santos here? Why? We're gonna run over the hill. What's Chris Weidman doing over by that woodpile? We're gonna take it all. Come on. We're gonna be brokers at the convention. You need to wake up and smell a fucking coffee. The
Lost Battalion, where politics and MMA meets.
Yeah, I mean, what? I mean, okay. Oh, the Rust Belt. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? How come I'm the only one that sees that if Rubio is pulling 3% in Ohio, that his plan to take his voters and throw them Kasich's way is the only thing that saved John Kasich's ass, I mean, Marco Rubio is not pulling 3% in any other state. He pulls 3% in Ohio. It's because the word got out, like he said a week before, don't vote for me in Ohio. We got to stop Trump. Vote for John Kasich. Without him saying that, if he pulls what he's been pulling, which would say maybe be 15% in Ohio, Kasich doesn't win this. He doesn't win Ohio. Who the fuck are you kidding? So, the fact that people have not said, here, smell this. You know what that is? Oh, yeah, that's Java. That's the Sumatra blend. That's coffee. Smell it. I can't think of anybody who's better suited outside of MMA than the Lost Battalion. And I'm going to have to say, you got to be fucking kidding me. Who's Corey Anderson fighting?
Shogun Hua, baby.
What does that say? God damn it, that hurts.
Yes, that is.
The way you feel about Francis Carmont is how I feel about Corey Anderson.
How can you hate the kid that much?
Did you see his last fight?
I did. I can't even really muster a full-throated defense
okay.
for the kid.
All right,
He's
okay.
got a great nickname.
That was a good try, Nate. Though.
The 25-8 Beastin thing is a great nickname, but it doesn't.
Yeah. And now, I'm sorry. What do you make about Anonymous fucking now pulling out the guns against Trump?
Yeah, Trump's going to call his buddies in Los Zetas and ask, how'd you shut these punks down so fast? That's well, we have actual computer hackers that are professionals that we pay and we kill people. So it's,
exactly right. Yeah, some kid in his bedroom in Oregon. Forget it, Jag. You're done. You know.
Yeah. It's a children's crusade all the way.
Wow. So do you think compassionate conservatism is in the Lost Battalion?
Yeah, dead. It's self-aware. It knows it's dead now. It's been dead since 2006, since Katrina. But
so are they Major Tom then, waiting for the call in the wake of the Trump craziness?
I think they might even be like, what's beyond Major Tom? Like, isn't there what's the space movie, John Carpenter's first movie, Dark Star, where it's all these hippies on the spaceship? It's sort of like a trial run for Alien, and at the end of the movie, the spaceship blows up, and one of the hippies is a surfer, and he's floating on a piece of debris through space, ranting about, "I'm catching a wave, baby, I'm catching a wave." Like,
I didn't see this, man. I didn't see this.
Oh, Dark Star is a classic, cheap,
a good
bad
classic
sci-fi.
or like Showgirls classic?
No, it's a good class. I mean, it's more like Eating Raoul classic.
Dolphins.
Remember Eating Raoul? Like one of those cheap, homemade, fun movies from the 70s, and. I mean, it's got like guys in a spaceship playing the switchblade knife game, you know. I mean, it's classic 70s stuff. But yeah, I think they finally had to admit that Bush was a failed president and that you can't run a repeat of a failed presidency. Like you can't come back. You know, here's an E. coli sandwich. You know, come on down to Chipotle. Let's have some salmonella. No.
Yeah.
One thing I think was interesting is hearing how Rory MacDonald was in the Phantom Toll booth, like in wake of his interview, like acknowledging the fact that waiting for a call to fight and not getting the call and getting the call and fight canceled.
You know, but what I mean, you know, he said that and my heart sort of went out to him, but you know what? I keep thinking of Joy Division and that you know, great line, made a fatal mistake. You know,
in what way?
He is not blameless, you know. He pretty much bogarted his way into the fucking Phantom Toll booth. He said, and I don't know what it was. It was a head issue. And, you know, I was like, I don't know what happened. Some of these guys, you don't know what happens. They're humans, you know. What happened to Mike Thomas Brown? What happened? What happens, you know?
Wait, you say in terms of what? What do you mean, like in terms of what happened to Rory?
He had a pretty major stumble where he was like, and then he was like, you know, I don't know what happened. My head, I gotta get my head. I'm gonna rediscover. You know, he went from being this killer to, I don't know what happened, man. I don't know what happened. You know?
Yeah, he had that first Lawler fight where he didn't pull the trigger, and the whole BJ Penn thing where he did the Muhammad Ali shuffle in front of.
He was setting himself up to be such a great heel. That's the thing that I think everyone was anticipating, like from the American Psycho suits to like I want to be a model to those weird videos of Mike Ricci and like you said, the Ali shuffle. He was totally setting himself up for almost like the Canadian version of like I mean, this is going to sound blasphemous, of like, you know, a poor man's version of Conor McGregor in the sense that like just, you know, but without anyone rallying against him, just like hatred. You know, that's the thing. There was no one who was like,
he forgot you have to have the psycho killer part. You have to be scary. You can't just be creepy. Like
right.
Ding, 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 ding.
Just creepy doesn't work, right?
No, if nobody's afraid of you, you're just creepy, and somebody's boyfriend's going to beat you up. If everybody's afraid of you, you know, the girls are writing you letters on death row. It's a whole different dynamic.
Well, what do you think about Lou Diamond Phillips as Richard Ramirez? Does that work for you?
Is that seriously happening?
Yes.
Oh my God! Wow. Well, he's too old for that. As Richard Ramirez's estate manager, I would have to say that they need a younger actor for that role.
Yeah, and there's just too much softness to Lou Diamond Phillips. I'm sorry, man. Bamba, good baby. You're not this fucking psycho killer. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's very weird.
Well, it's an acting challenge then for him
you know, when I was hanging around with Anton LaVey from the Church of Satan, he was saying that Ramirez was always coming up to his house, hanging around, trying to meet him. He hung out with the guy a couple of times, and he said, he essentially said, I don't have any fucking, I don't have any room for guys like this. Essentially, LeVay was a cynical opportunist, but these guys were true believers. He's like, I'm not, the guy with pentagrams on his hand. It's like, he goes, LeVay was like, I'm just trying to make the rent, echoing that Lou Reed line. I'm an atheist, fundamentally. It's a good way to make some cash, whatever, I'm on it. So,
there you go.
So no more editions this week.
No.
All right, well, on that note, thanks for joining us. Follow us on Twitter at Eugene S. Robinson, at Kid Nate, at Alexi Old. Please give us a thumbs up, Eugene.
In my household, you did great, kid. Same kind of support I got from my father.
Well,
man. And leave comments on YouTube so we can support. And subscribe to MMANation.com on YouTube and MMA Nation on iTunes. Visit Bloody Elbow. Visit Read Eugene at Ozzy.com. And be sure to check out all three of us on Amazon.com. We'll be back next week for another installment, If I Did It. And we don't know what we'll be talking about because the PR mistakes have yet to be made.
Ding ding.